In a year, how many weeks do you think a reasonable vacation should be? Now, I want you to take that number and subtract that from 52. And if you need more time to do the math, you can pause the video. Now, that number that you got, do you think that's a reasonable amount of weeks you should be working and hustling in proportion to the amount of weeks that you want to be on vacation in a year? If so, if you earned it, you deserve it. And speaking of vacations, I came across this ad. And in this informative speech of mine, I'll be putting my own personal interpretations on how this ad came to be, and how it eventually inspired me to take a vacation. Let's read the message. There's inspiring. Then, there's breathing into a sunrise salutation after a low tide drop along sun-kissed sands and palm-lined promenades. So with that statement alone, that mentally brought me on this kind of image and took me out of where I was physically. So I thought that was a lot of vocabulary, and I was just like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." That was deep. And to top it all off, that's more than beautiful. Santa Barbara blissful. Now, just looking at that statement, just imagine this picture. It looks nice, doesn't it? But what if you're actually in that scenery right now? If you're physically in there, it's saying that it's blissful. It's completely different experiencing it. Kind of saying like, oh, we're taking online classes. Oh, okay, it's cool. We're just listening to recordings. But what if we're actually live in that classroom? Okay, that's where it's legit. So, how I interpret that the messaging part, I like the fact that it's the smaller the words, the less dynamic the definitions of the sentences were. And I like the way that the font color was white because it's in the top half of the ad and it was like within the sky. So I felt like these words were also like the clouds of the sky. Since clouds, like their sizes vary, so I did the font text. That's pretty cool. Also with the white, I noticed that in the middle of the ad, there's mountains. And those mountains would represent the mountains that we have to climb constantly when we're not on vacation. Work, school, family responsibilities. And with the whiteness here, it's like it's not fully covering it. Because like those mountains that you have to climb, they'll always be there. Though you'll always have worries, you'll always have struggles and difficulties. But with the whiteness that's interpreted here, it's temporary. It's momentarily. So in this moment, you need to not worry about that for now. Just take a breather. What I also like in the image was the trees, because with trees, as I said, take a breather. They tend to be relaxing, and they're just going with the wind. So as if like personally, we should be like going with the flow, especially when we're on vacation. Just keep those vibes and those thoughts positive. I would also like to talk about the woman that's sitting on the rock. Not that the woman's like looking at the clear white sky, and looks like she's like clearing her thoughts. Also, when she's sitting on the rock, it looks like she's just finding equilibrium or the balance of trying to recollect herself and balance her thoughts together. I also like the fact that she's like wearing red, and red is normally interpreted as a romantic color, just like how the scenery is quite romantic. And in conclusion, I first look at this ad and it's not as contracting or as popping as other ads, but after further analyzing it, it looks so relaxing. And it's not about the of the colors, it's more like the contrast and how all these not so popping colors actually came to be, and how it just ended up relaxing me and just personally telling me not to overwork, not to be frantic all the time. Because, after working so hard, you do need a vacation. Try here, Santa Barbara. Thank you for listening to my informative speech, and I hope you have a good one.